The following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin.
Hey everyone, I'm Christine.
And I'm Steve.
And this is 50 Shades of Bullshit. I never think about the introduction stuff that comes on until we're sitting here waiting. And then I'm like, oh my God, I need to change that audio because it's not just about uncovering the truth of online dating.
You've expanded your topics and you're now covering all of life.
We do, because most of life is 50 Shades of fucking bullshit.
It's all crazy, but we got to laugh, right?
Shit. Yeah, that's right, I guess. So how's life for you this week, Steve?
Life is good. This has been a fun run with you, kind of being co-host.
I'm so glad you said that because I love having you here. It has been amazing.
I'm very fascinated by our guest today. You
oh my God.
Sent me his info and I was like, wow, this sounds really fascinating. Because one of the things I don't think that you know that I'm an end-of-life doula. So that's one of the things and one of the areas I want to work with people more. So this is someone, I guess we're going to introduce him in a minute, but someone who had a death experience and has come back.
Very exciting. I did not know that about you.
Yeah, so
I learn something new all the time.
Yeah, some questions for him about it because I have not been to the other side myself, at least that I know of.
Right. I have a ton of questions for him too. And I know that everybody listening is really excited to hear it and they don't want to hear about my bullshit week. I don't really care about it. Though I will say my new job is pretty cool. And there were issues there as well with people being jealous and mean to me. But whatever, their shit will come. So karma is a beautiful bitch, and that shit will happen. So I actually want to get to Devon really quickly too, because there's so much to cover and not enough time to cover it. So I'm going to tell you a little about Devon, and then we're going to bring him on. Devon Kramer is a spiritual teacher. He is a near-death experience survivor. God, that gives me chills and makes me want to cry every time I say it. And creator of the unified pressure field theory. He leads Matrix Mysteries. It's a community of over 1 million seekers and shares teachings on healing, manifestation, and frequency-based reality. That's actually how I know Devon. I am in the Matrix Mysteries groups on Facebook. Devon is also the founder of 9 Vibes Universal, a platform that blends science, spirit, and sacred math to help others align with truth and purpose. So let's bring on Devon. I am literally never been so excited to talk to somebody. Hey, Devon.
Welcome.
Hello there. Thank you.
We're so happy you survived your near-death experience, and 2, surviving enough so you can be here. We are thrilled. So tell us, let's start out, Devon, with you telling us what happened to where you had this near-death experience.
Yeah, so my near-death experience was January 20th, 2017. It was a complete normal day, sunny out. I was playing with my dog, and all of a sudden I felt everything in my body. Something was wrong. I could just feel like my body was almost shutting down. So if you imagine like a computer, it was just slowly shutting down, and I started to go into panic mode. So I had grabbed my phone. I had called 911. I was talking to the woman, and I told her that I felt like there was poison that was running through my body, because that's exactly what it felt like. Just every single level was just going down at that point. And so I don't remember finishing the phone call. I remember hitting the counter and then falling to the ground. So the next thing that I remember is I remember getting up. The moment that I got up, I looked around and everything was different. Colors were completely different. I wouldn't even be able to describe the colors that I was seeing at that time. I could see energy lines. I could see basically grids around me. And I felt like I was inside and outside of time at the exact same time. And so at this point in time, I started walking around. I had walked around my living room and I had looked at the TV, and the TV was completely frozen. It was not moving whatsoever. And that was a bit odd because it was January 20th, 2017, which was the president's inauguration. And so there was things all over the TV. And at this point, it's completely frozen. So I thought to myself, oh my gosh, a comet hit, a catastrophic event, an apocalyptic event, a nuke, anything along those lines, something had happened. And at that point in time, this voice had spoken to me and said, no, this is about you. And so at that point, I had realized that I had died. And all of a sudden, this overwhelming energy just went over me. Everything about me that was broken before was instantly whole. If you've ever felt unloved, I felt more loved in that moment than I ever had in my whole entire life.
Wow.
I had been in and out of the hospital 22 times for kidney infections, kidney failure. I went septic in the hospital. I had agoraphobia. I hadn't been outside of my house or to a restaurant in almost 12 years. So at that point, I felt completely healed. I felt whole. I felt connected. It was absolutely incredible. And so as I was thinking all this, I'm looking out the window and I see this bunny that is going across, and the grass was the brightest, most incredible green I had ever seen in my life. But it wasn't just the colors that were amazing. I was watching this bunny move, and I was seeing the energy that was actually pushing it. And so then I had turned around the corner, and as I had turned around the corner, that's when I saw my body. It was lying on the ground where I had fallen. And so at that point then came all the knowledge. And the only way that I know how to describe this is if you were handed 15 books of all the knowledge you would want to know, but it's written in another language. So I'm getting this immense amount of downloaded information, quantum mechanics and physics. I didn't know any of this stuff. And so it's just coming in downloads. And not only that, also my life. So I didn't actually go through a life review. I was instantly and instantaneously given the compassion I needed for everybody who had hurt me in my life. It's like I didn't have to go through all that. It was just instantly given. And so then these massive doors appeared. They were huge, and there was this light that was actually behind them. This is something you hear quite often in these stories. There was this light that was behind these doors. And I knew that everything inside of me wanted to go towards these doors, wanted to go towards this light. I just knew that I didn't want to do it alone. So what I had done is I had called my lab over to me, and she had heard me somehow. She had come over to where I had sat down, and I remember petting her and feeling not her fur, but actually feeling this energy. And so I'd close my eyes as these doors got closer and closer and closer. And then the second that they were about to hit me, suddenly I'm back on the ground. I am looking up at two EMTs. I can't hear or really see anything very clearly, almost like, again, the computer is now starting up. And so it was slowly rebooting. Suddenly I could hear out of my ear. Suddenly they were talking to me. They're checking vitals. They had actually stayed with me for 3 hours. It took 3 hours to convince me that I wasn't still dead. That's how traumatic this experience was.
Wow.
And so at that point in time, they had finally left. I had gone to bed. And when I woke up the next day, I started writing this information down. And from there, that's where 9 Vibes came from.
So do you continually get kind of like downloads, or is it just all the knowledge that was given to you in that moment? It just stayed with you?
So in the beginning, I thought that I was receiving downloads, but then I understood that it's actually just re-remembering what had actually been given to me. And that's why I can go from one topic to the next topic very, very easily. I don't spend a lot of time studying. It just clicks into place for me. And so that's when I understood that it was actually just re-remembering what was shared.
You know, I've never really had this fear of death. I have no fear of death. What I have fear of, if you want to call it fear, is thinking about all the things and all the people that are happening right now, feeling like I'm going to miss that or be gone from that. Did you have that kind of feeling at all when you were experiencing this, or thought about that since then?
I did not actually have that feeling at all. There is a clarity that is given to you that everything that is going on Earth in the 3D is literally just that. It's a game that's being played. And I don't mean that in terms of a video game. What I mean is that the end is already written. It is okay. Everybody is absolutely okay once they are officially out of this. You only suffer here. There's only fear here. And so, no, I didn't have that. It wasn't until I had actually met my fiance, basically 2 years later, that suddenly I didn't have the answer of what it would be like if you were that connected to someone, although I have received that answer as well.
What answer have you received about that?
I basically received the understanding that as long as two people are choosing each other, that love will surpass any of the fears that we have of being separated. There is a moment of reuniting that is far more powerful than anything that we experience here. And so you are not disconnected, but things like our parents, things like our friends, they have their own internal experience that they're going through. And so it is really the ones that you choose actively to stay connected to that you will be able to reunite with.
Oh, I see. So Mickey, one of our listeners, actually just said, "Can you talk about the doors with the light again?" Is there any more clarification or any more knowledge that you have about those doors and the light?
Yeah, so the doors were basically the stepping point between where the electron becomes positive. So this is something I've talked about on Matrix Mysteries. Here in the 3D, the electron is negative. We all agree with that. We verify that. When you move into the 4D, which is basically that space that I was in between literally moving on and here, that is where the electron is neutral. That's why you get all the information. That's why you get all your answers. That's why you can see your life without being emotionally charged, because it's neutral at that point. When it moves into what some call the 5D or heaven, whatever you want to call it, the electron shifts to positive. So here in the 3D, it is easier to be sick than it is to be healthier. It's easier to be poor than it is to be rich. It is easier to be angry than it is to forgive. But in the 5D, it reverses. It is easier to be kind than it is to be unkind. It is easier to be healthy than it is to be sick. And so it was just that light of that reversal of that energy. E equals MC squared, basically reversed.
Gotcha. That is fascinating.
I have some interesting questions, lots of questions actually. But one of the things I'm really curious about is, before this experience, what was your relationship with spirituality or God, or what was it like for you before you had this experience?
Yes. So before this experience, I had been raised in the church. I was taught by the church. In fact, my parents were preachers. My uncle was a preacher.
When you say the church, that means a lot for different
yes,
people.
Non-denominational Christianity.
Okay.
So I went every Sunday. I was always in church, basically, but it was very fear-based. So I have a younger sister who has cystic fibrosis. They taught us that when we make mistakes, she's the one who pays for them. So I had a very unhealthy relationship with God, with spirituality. I didn't step outside the lines. I tried to stay on it as much as possible. I didn't even start meditating until after this experience. That's when I opened the doors of meditation and learning all of that. So it was very dogmatic for me, even though that was, my path at that time.
Yeah.
But after this experience, it broke everything open. And the most important thing for me in my NDE was understanding there is no hell. Because what people don't understand about me is that I wasn't exactly the greatest person prior to this experience. I had messed up in relationships. I had hurt people. I had a clear path of damage.
What was that you said? There is no what?
No hell.
There is no hell.
There's no hell.
Okay. There is no hell. There is.
Word, huh?
Oh.
Yeah, I don't believe there is a hell either. I think we're all energy and we're all vibrational, and that shifts. Like you said, I've read so much about the positive and negative between the two different spaces that you were talking about. I can't describe them properly because I only have a feeling that I'm trying to explain. You know what I mean? And so for me, I've always thought that it was a different place where we are our souls. And we are all connected by energy through our souls, and that it's the place where we go and re-download what we're supposed to, what we were here to do and what we didn't do, and then process that. I mean, how far am I off on that?
No, you're very close. I think the only part that I would add to this is to understand that the 3D is not actual physicality, and the 5D is also the equality of here. So in other words, you are still physical. You still can do things. You still can hug and kiss. You still can run around. You can do all these different things. The only difference is that here we believe that basically the field or the universe is against us. There, you already know that it's working for you. So it changes. You get to live the life basically you wanted to live if fear and doubt wouldn't have kept you back.
Interesting. I said that to somebody today. This person came to give a quote about a job, and we were talking. He said something about his fiance, and I said something about his wedding, and he said that his girlfriend or fiance was calling him and saying, freaking out about something, how something wasn't working out. And I said, actually, if you think about it the opposite way, if you think that we don't know everything, so what we don't know, the universe does. And sometimes I like to say the universe hurts us to help us. We think we're being hurt, but we're being guided in the right direction. And we just are seeing more of that negative. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, very much so.
Okay, I get this. Now, you talk a lot about a unified pressure field. What is that? I've been curious about that for a while.
Yeah, so the unified pressure field is basically the field that is all around us that we can't see, that physics and science is trying to understand. And
that
the
energy?
reason, yes, yeah. Okay. But when I talk about an actual pressure field, imagine it like a slope. Imagine it like a hill in essence. So the very bottom of the hill is going to have the most density. The very top is going to be the least amount. It's going to be lighter. And so the reason this is so important is because currently right now with physics, we focus on gravity, which means that something is being pulled towards something. In the unified pressure field, it's actually saying that it's being pushed. And the reason that's important is even in spirituality is because if you believe that things can be pulled, then you believe that things are happening to you, not you're happening to the world. And so when you reverse this understanding, all of a sudden it starts to make sense that everything around you is conscious, it's aware, and including the field. And so it's this invisible field, and soon we will be able to see it. Soon we will be able to do the math behind it to actually verify. But basically it is the field in terms of how everything works. And to give you a little tip on it, it vibrates at 432 hertz. So this is important because when you look at the speed of light in NASA, they'll say it's 186,282 miles per second. Well, the actual speed of light is 186,624, which is 432 squared. So it all very much connects. If you get into the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it talks about 432 as the frequency they tune to. If you look at Bach and Beethoven, they actually tune their instruments to 432A. So it's been all throughout history.
I listened to that at night.
Oh, that's awesome.
I did listen to I was like, wait a minute, that's one of my hertz. 432, 888, and there's two others I just can't think about at the moment. But there are several hertz that I listen to at night, and this one feels like I feel I don't know, more in tune, more aligned?
Yes, you'll feel more connected because that's exactly what it's vibrating at. So you're just meeting that resonance.
I love that. One of our guests, people asked real quick.
Yeah, it seems like some people in our chat are fascinated with some of the experience. Like Mickey is fascinated about the door. Can you talk about the doors and the light again? Was there just one door?
Yeah. How long were you in the in-between state before you came back? Like when the paramedics came, how long was that? Do you know?
Yeah, so I had lived out in North Carolina, so I lived quite a bit out. So it was roughly anywhere between 30 and 40 minutes, this whole experience. Although in all honesty, it felt a lot longer as I was going through it.
Actually dead at that time in the physical world?
Yes, this is the whole time I'm seeing my actual body. So I can see it. It is laying on the ground, and yet I am walking around. And so in that state, I was there probably about 30 to 40 minutes.
Wow, that's amazing. How do you think this changed the way you see life and death now?
Drastically, in every single way. I am not afraid of death. I am not worried even a little bit about death. I'm not worried about even the moment of death. I think that there's something that people should know, which is that when it is your final moment, you actually do not experience pain. So your body will react just like a knee-jerk reaction, but you do not feel any pain. In fact, the only reason you will ever feel pain in an NDE or even any situation that is traumatic is when you are actually coming back. That's then when it kicks your body in and says, hey, now you need to feel this pain, because you are actually here in the 3D. But the moment that you're going to transition, there is zero pain whatsoever, no matter the situation. So that's drastically changed.
What about leading up to that moment?
Leading up to that moment, there is, so up until the point that the decision is made, there absolutely can be pain, because once the decision is made, then at that point, there's no turning back. But up until that point, just like anything in life, you can definitely feel pain.
So is there safe to say there really is like a letting go?
There is. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So when a lot of people who do a near-death experience say that a lot of their loved ones are greeting them or coming to them or being there for them, during that time. Is that something you experienced, or did you get any download about what that is about?
So I didn't actually experience a guide other than that voice that was kind of walking me through this, and that was enough for me. Some people asked me, was that God? Was that Jesus? I don't know the answer to that. I just know that it was something that I resonated with at that level to trust enough to understand what was going on. But it was my dog, actually. I had no friends. Being agoraphobic, you don't really go out in the world. So I didn't have any friends or I didn't really have any family members or anything like that showed up in that. It was really just me and my dog and the voice that was guiding me.
Wow.
I find it really interesting what you said about instant compassion. That was fascinating.
Yes.
I imagine all resentments, regrets just gone. Is that accurate?
Yes. This is something that I talk about because I think that the church and religion got very close to it, but then kind of skewed a different way. Compassion is a burning. So when they talk about hell burning, I think this is what they were talking about. Compassion is a burning. It burns away the illusions. It burns away the separation. It burns away the fear, but it's not something you physically feel. It's kind of the same thing like when you listen to music and it can really hit you, but it doesn't physically hurt you. It's kind of the exact same thing. And all that people need is just a little bit of clarity and a large amount of compassion, and they would understand everything that they did in life, no matter the situation.
So I grew up in a really bad place, bad situations. Okay. And I had some really horrific things done to me. And that person is now deceased. Okay. And I've been trying to learn how to grow within myself to forgive and let go. And I've never really been able to do it until fairly recently. I heard something that said that when our souls go through that doorway to the light that you're talking about, to the positive side, that person is no longer the things that are attached to him or her, that they were doing, that were the negative, terrible things here. Their soul is pure again when they get to that other side, and they are no longer that thing or way that they were when they were here. And it allowed me to go, you know what? That is just something that happened. It isn't who I am. It isn't who they are. And it just is what it is. And I've been able to come to terms with it. And I think let go a lot more than I've ever have in my life. What are your thoughts on that? About that whole concept of people being different when they get to that positive other side?
Yeah, that is absolutely spot on, to a T, because when you go through the 4D, it's not just you that goes through it, right? When everybody goes through that 4D, that neutral transition, the only way you even get to the other side is to clear that soul, like you're talking about, to clear that signal, to get rid of all the distortions. You see why a father did something, why a mother did something, and you have that understanding. The same way that when we watch, TV shows and we get to see the life of the villain and we go, oh, that's why they turned out that way.
Yeah.
And so, yes, when you come out on the other side, there is no more of that fractal brokenness. There is just the completeness. And there is a reason that you chose that bond in the first place, right?
Yeah.
The world is the thing that
Yeah.
twisted it up. Untwisted, and
Yeah.
you have that person that was always there underneath.
Wow. I had read something a long time ago, Many Lives, Many Masters, I think it's what it's called. And it said something about how we chose the life we live. And for years and years, I was angry about that because I thought, how the fuck could I have chosen this goddamn wretched life that I live? And then I thought, you know what? There's a reason. And I am who I am, and the life that I am living now is the reasons for all of that. So I think I can grasp that. I think it's hard for people to, but I think people can if they try.
Light always illuminates the most in darkness, right? If you ask yourself, who am I? And you don't have an answer, am I love? Am I kindness? You've got to go to a place that is actually going to allow that. And I think that Neil Donald Walsh did a really, really good job in his book, Conversations with God, when he basically says, you're a candle standing in front of the sun. And you're asking yourself, am I bright? You're never going to know the answer to that until you officially back away from the sun. So the more you back away, the more brighter you realize you truly are.
Wow, I love that. So tell me, what do you think, or tell us, how can we understand grief and healing and how it shows up? Because I know a lot of people are listening today because of grief.
Right. So grief is a very powerful energy. Grief and guilt will kill you. Those are the two G's that will absolutely take you down. And so when we come here, the most important thing here is bonds. Bonds will keep you alive. When you bond with someone, it's actually you putting in a portion of your energy. They put in a portion of their energy. There's a whole mathematical equation of vortex math, which ends up generating a vesica Pisces, which is two circles overlapping. And in that center space is where you create. So when you find people that do not have connections, like I was living, you're basically dying in essence. You're using your own energy to self-sustain an illusion of life. So when we are grieving, and grief is actually a gift in the understanding that it's the ability to say goodbye to the illusion you were holding on to, because ultimately there is never a goodbye. And so when someone is going through grief, it is because of the fact that the energy that the other person put into that bond returned to them. And then the energy that you put into that bond is now returning to you. Any point in time that you feel energy coming your way, if you don't know what it is, it hurts. That's why heartache hurts. That's why breaking up with people hurts. It's because that energy that you put in is coming back to you. So you have two choices with grief. You can accept it or you can reject it. If you accept it, it actually ends up becoming a gift. And many people have written books and stories about how going through that process has changed their life or changed other people's lives. If you reject it, it becomes a haunting. It is something then that literally follows you around. It's why if you watch horror stories, you'll always find grief or guilt, right at the core, because that's exactly what allows that to exist. But if you follow it and you trust it and you allow it to basically become part of you, you take that energy, you understand, and you realize you will have that reuniting, it amplifies and becomes something that changes your life drastically.
Let's stick with the death thing for a couple more minutes, because I think that there's a big misunderstanding that people have about death. What do you think that you could tell us that could help us understand this better?
So I'm sure that you hear a lot of people that will say death doesn't exist. But the reality is we live in a dualistic world, right? There is no hot without cold. If all that exists was hot, we wouldn't label it anything different. Therefore, we wouldn't label it hot. Therefore, it wouldn't exist. So life and death go hand in hand with each other. It's the thing that allows you to compare, right? You choose to live your life the best way that you can because of the fact that you're afraid of death. But it's very much an illusion, the same way that hot and cold is. Hot is literally just a different version of cold, and cold is just a different version of hot, and both of them belong to temperature. So it's the same thing. You belong to the field. Your soul exists beyond all the choices and all the things that you've done. So death is basically the moment that your personal field collapses and now you are free. Because as long as the field exists, you exist in the field. Once the field collapses, just like a star collapses, it has a choice to go supernova and explode and give, or it has a choice to close in and become a black hole, which then just allows another life, right? Black holes are literally, we're inside of a giant black hole in essence, because that's how we even exist. So it's kind of the exact same thing. You have a choice to go in, and then therefore you would become, in essence, a black hole. And that means that you would then just move on to the next life. Or you have a choice to go supernova, which allows you to move on to the 5D. Everything is about choice. But in that moment of the 4D, I can honestly tell you probably 99% of people don't choose to come back to this life because they then understand that the 5D gives them everything they truly actually wanted.
Gotcha. So what advice would you give someone who's grieving?
Oh, I've given lots of advice to people that are grieving. So first and foremost, no one is ever gone. So when you are no longer compressed by the field, you are then part of the field. And if you're part of the field, then for instance, listening to your favorite song of somebody or watching their favorite show or writing something down, they have the ability to interact with you. Most people who are grieving are dealing with fear, and fear will block that very gentle, very loving signal of I'm here with you. And that's why a lot of people will feel they're animals long before they'll feel somebody who actually passed away. It's because of the fact that they move through grief quicker. And so therefore then the animal then can send the signals to let you know I'm still here, because no one ever goes away. And so when I talk to parents who have lost children, I tell them, quiet your breathing, quiet your mind, because your child is very much speaking to you. They have the awareness, the understanding that you do not have, and therefore they want to guide you. They want to be there for you until that moment that you then transition and that reuniting happens.
You know, I've been saying for a while since I suffered for a very decades after my grandmother passed, but after my mom passed, I got I started manifesting, I started meditating, and I started dimensional traveling. So I want to ask you about that too. But I realized that I got my own download I was told that they are more with me now because they're within everything than when they were alive. Like when they were alive, they were only with me when I called them or I went to go see them. But now that they're gone, I was told they're with me more than ever. So I resonate with that. That really hits me.
Yes, they are never gone.
I love that. Like so much. Ruth Rhodes says it's definitely different when you have a near-death experience and are looking at your deceased body. I pleaded not to come back. I resonated with what he was describing. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have a near-death experience and being so overwhelmed with like what you're talking about and knowing that you could move on, but then not being able to and being pulled back into this life. I can't imagine how you would keep going forward. Has it helped you? Has it helped you get past your agoraphobia? Are you living a different life now?
Oh, night and day. Absolutely, it's helped me. When I started writing in these journals and writing this information down, I started applying it to my life. So I had actually figured out how to manifest, and I teach it every single day. It's 36 days. That's all that it takes, and you can manifest anything in your life. And I'm not saying, you have to pick and choose certain things. I am saying absolutely anything. I have fully healthy, functioning kidneys that Duke Hospital could not explain, has no answer to. I am not agoraphobic. I actually proposed to my fiance at Disneyland amongst 45,000 people.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Everything about my life. I no longer live where I used to live, not paycheck to paycheck. I lived a paycheck behind. I now live in flow. I am financially doing well. I spend my days just teaching people, guiding people. I love life immensely. And it all changed from that experience. And so I followed the 36 days. I followed the steps that I was shown, and it just kept revealing more and more to the point that now I teach it every day.
I love that. People in the back talk. People who watch through Facebook or any of the lives can see some of the comments. But Lynn says, "Yes, I felt the same after my father passed, and he is with me all the time. That can't happen." When they are with you here on earth. And then Lynn also said, Devon is an amazing, kind, wise, beyond his years soul, a blessing to the answers we ask. I love that. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious if there's something that you developed a sense of humor about that all the funny things that human beings do that you realize that is just ridiculous. Like, why can we believe that? I'm very curious about that because I know I have some of my discoveries in spiritual growth.
Humans are absolutely fascinating. We are the only species in nature that basically perceives our understanding from inside out. So all of nature, animals, everything, they look at the outside and bring it in. We're the ones who look inside and then project it out. So after this experience, especially when I'm talking to people about like hell, any of those things, and they're just talking about what was written in the book, and I had this experience, I have this confidence. I'm not an unkind person, and I will never tell someone they're wrong. That's not my place to do that. But there are a lot of things that I see. There's a lot of things that are going on in politics right now, and it's all just a game. It's a chess game, right? And it's not one side is better than the other. It's who can play the best move at that time. So we move back and forth from Democrat to Republican all the time throughout history, because that's truly what it's really about. There are many things that are going on in this world that I have to look back and go, it's only being played here. And that is all that truly matters, in that understanding, and to understand that the kind of ripples that like you guys are doing will change things when people start understanding that we actually do live in a push gravity, not a pull. You happen to this world, you change things. Even something like anybody who's ever seen Interstellar, they try to explain all the math that the closer that you get to the sun, right, the slower the time gets because of a pull. Well, it's actually a push. The closer that you get to the sun actually has the most amount of patterns. The sun actually uses fusion every single day, and we can't even figure out fusion. So it has all this pattern and all this memory. And the more memory and pattern that something has, the more mass it has. The more mass it has, the more it creates a more dense slope. So if you were at the bottom of that slope, in other words, if you're coming up to the sun, time will literally slow down. And that's what time dilation is. It's not a pull, it's a push.
I love that.
So for you personally, do you feel like you are still in this 3D experience at the same time have access to the 4D or the 5D?
I very much feel like I walk a bridge. It's really easy for me to meditate, really easy for me to astral project, very easy for me to receive downloads on new information. Someone will tell me about something and suddenly I'll just go into a meditation, and then I have all the information to basically make it a complete kind of thought. But I definitely also accept that I live here. I love my relationship, my life. I love helping people.
I love that. You had talked about manifesting, and I am the biggest proponent for manifesting. I talk about it all the time to everybody. What is manifesting? And really, is it something we do, or is it something we tune into?
So manifesting is basically to become the frequency of the thing that you want. So there are many books that are out there, The Secret, The Law of One. They're all trying to teach these type of things, but they kind of leave you without a foundation to stand on.
Yeah.
So there is a very key way to do this, and it follows Nikola Tesla's 3, 6, and 9. If you remember that quote, if you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have a key to the universe. And it's because of the fact that it takes 36 days to manifest. So currently right now, we live on a timeline that believes that we have 365 days a year. And that is based off of the understanding of the sun. But if you have an internal understanding of time, if you have an internal understanding of a clock, it's actually 432 days. So that goes back to that 432 I was talking about. So if we had 432 days a year, we would have 12 months of 36 days, 12 different times to be able to manifest something in your life. Okay. So it starts like this. Day 1, you start your manifestation. You announce to the field, the unified pressure field, what you want. Day 3, you add a frequency, a thought. You write something down. You speak something out loud. Day 6, you add a vibration. You actually do something. So for instance, if you want to lose weight, you walk around your house 5 times, whatever it happens to be, it doesn't matter. Day 9 then is going to be the amplification of day 3 and 6. So you just do the same thing you did on day 3 and 6, and then add something extra to that. So at that point in time, you have officially created loops. Okay. So then you repeat it. You repeat it because of the fact that any cycle needs 2. It's not a cycle if it only has 1. It needs to be verifiable by 2 things. So you repeat the exact same steps. That will take you to 18 days. Okay. At the 18th day, the field is now observing your pattern. You created the pattern. You showed that the cycle exists. And now the field, like I said, that is conscious and aware, is now observing you. So you do the exact same thing you did for the first 18 days. It will lock in a combination of 6 loops in essence, and it'll create the atom, which is exactly what an atom looks like. If you go look at that old school, it's got those 6 loops. It's got 3 of them. And then, of course, each side is a loop. That locks in light. Light with pressure becomes manifestation. And so it takes 36 days for you to manifest.
Wow, that's amazing. So you are teaching this as well?
Yes. I actually just wrote a book on this.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to learn a lot from you, Devon. I do have like a question about something. So I think I've traveled interdimensionally. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was manifesting and meditating, I experienced my mom and my grandmother coming to me, and they took me to a place, whether it's a timeline or a dimension, where I had what I've been manifesting, what I've been wanting in my life. They showed me a place and time where I have the things I want, so that I could feel the feelings of what it feels like to be there, to know that it was real, that I'm going there. And now I work towards that. Do you think that was a possibility of it being my imagination, or was it something really that could have happened?
I absolutely believe that's something that happened. The only thing I'll add to it is what it was showing you was exactly what I'm talking about. So when you go through that 18 days and you only focus on the 3, the 6, and the 9, then basically you start becoming the new frequency that will be you. So you start this as a frequency, And each 3, 6, and 9 day, so in other words, it'd be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 18. Each one of those changes your frequency. And so as you're changing through this process, you then come out, in essence, a new frequency by the end of the 36 days. And that frequency aligns with exactly what it was that you wanted. It already exists. You're just not living it.
I'm seeing that. I feel that. I see that 100%. What's the difference between, you think, are dimensions and timelines?
So dimension and timelines are a little bit different so dimensions basically are measurement. To divide is what that means in essence, the division of time in essence. So when you're dealing with dimensions, we have 13 dimensions. This is actually found when you study Metatron's cube. You take 13 circles, you draw a line to each and every circle, you'll actually create Metatron's cube, and you also create all 5 platonic solids naturally within it just by drawing lines. So there are 13 dimensions that you can actually be a part of, in essence, and have a perspective inside of that. In terms of timelines, the reality of timelines is the understanding that every single time that you change a frequency in your life, you move to another timeline. And so this is something I talk about on Matrix Mysteries. When someone puts down a cup in the beginning of their day, and then they go into their room and they do something and no one else is in that house, but let's say that they meditate or they listen to music that really, lifts their spirit or whatever it happens to be, and they come back out and their cup is gone, they literally move to another timeline. It's not the fact that it's glitching or breaking or anything. It's that we are constantly moving through timelines. And the more awareness we have of this, the more we're going to see these.
I have been feeling that it was like that for a long time. And I kept telling myself I must be going crazy. There's no reason. Yeah. Thank you so much for that moment just now, because a lot of things just really clicked in my head. I literally said to somebody the other day that I thought that something was missing because I no longer am in the same time and space as it, that it just, I didn't misplace it. I am in a different place.
Exactly. Yes. It's the same with the Mandela effect. The people that actually, if you notice, we call them awake, right? Regardless of where they are in their life, we'll say, oh, you're more awake. What they're really saying is you're on a different timeline. And if you're on a different timeline, things actually change. Now, the easiest things to actually change are going to be virtual things. Why? Because your mind isn't set that that's physical, that's real. So it's easy to change virtual things. It's easy to change movie titles or quotes in movies and things like that. But it very much affects our real life. And that's why I started Matrix Mysteries. I wanted people to share their stories of all the small moments that most people would say, that's just in your head. But in reality, it was enough to write your story and it stuck with you.
I love that. I love the Facebook group. Like, I love it. It is so great.
Thank you.
You should go and search that out and join that group. I'm in it. It's amazing. Devon, there are so many things that people want to know about and so many questions. By the way, anybody who has questions for Devon, if you want to email them into us, send them to 50shadesofbullshit@gmail.com. You have to spell out 50, F-I-F-T-Y, and you have to put a Y instead of I for bullshit. But send us your questions. And Devon, I got to have you back. Are you cool coming back with us? Because this
absolutely
hour way too fast. I will get you scheduled ASAP, because I really feel that there's so many questions that people have that we didn't even come close to touching today.
I would love to come back.
That would be amazing. And how can I and others find you to be able to do this manifesting with you, to learn more about this?
Yeah, so you can go on to Facebook and you can search 9 Vibes Universal. I actually teach daily. I'll have a post that is somehow teaching about the unified pressure field, Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio, vortex math, whatever it happens to be that's in the flow at that point in time. You can also go to my website, which is www.9vibesuniversal.com. That's a 9 at the front. Everything is about 3, 6, and 9s in my life. And you can also email me directly. I get a lot of emails from people, and that is also 9vibesuniversal@gmail.com.
What's crazy is that my entire world is about 3, 6, and 9.
That's awesome.
That's crazy.
It's locking in.
It really is. Sorry, I'm feeling like super moved right this moment. I'm really thrilled that you could be here today, Devon. You're an incredible person, and I'm so grateful that this world gets to have you back for a little bit at least. And that we get to learn from you. I'm very grateful that you are here. So
thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for being
I know we have some dates at the latter part of July. If I could I'll get together with you, Devon, and we'll get you booked. Okay.
Sounds great.
And thank you for being here today. I feel like we only touched a tiny sliver of what you could bless us with. But thank you everyone who came and participated today. Your questions and your feedback in the back end of comments is awesome. We love that so much. Thank you everyone for being here again today. Thank you, Steve. You're the best. I love you. And we're going to be here same time, same place next week. Next week is how to be safe online. And until then, hold on a second, Devon. I'll talk to you after the show. And until then, let's just keep this shit real.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.